Okay. So generally we use normal mixtures, which is M20, M15, or for regular PCCs, we use M10 as well. Okay. These mixes uh, generally are used for small residential buildings or not small residential buildings. Still, it can comprise buildings up to 10 to 15 story easily. Okay. Beyond that, we have to we create design mixed concrete. Okay, they are those of in which mixed proportions are finalized based on various lab tests, and the components of it are decided as per what the strength is required. Okay, we are going to see further what all things are manipulated or tweaked to get the to achieve the strength which is required. So steps of concrete construction. Yeah, okay. Selecting quantities for material for selected mix proportions, mixing them, checking the workability tests, then transportation, pouring in formwork for casting on site, vibrating for proper compaction, then let it settle, let it set on site, and then removal of formwork after suitable time, and then curing member with suitable methods and whatever time is required for different members. So this is our general process. Okay. Now the first component is cement. Okay. Now there are various types of cement which are available in market, and as I said, uh, due to the requirement, various requirements for various buildings and various conditions, we have came up with few alternatives which in which the components of cement are changed. So the first one is ordinary Portland cement. This is in usual construction work we use. It is widely used. Again, whatever regular PCC work which we do or RCC work we do, this is what we use. Most of the masonry work are carried out with this cement. Then PPC, okay, Portland Pozzolana cement. It contains silica in reactive forms. Now this again the elements, the silica is the main element in cement. Okay, so the material it reacts with calcium hydroxide and generated by hydrating cement in form of additional cementatious material when it is finally divided. Again, it's not necessary for you all to understand how or which chemical exactly is mixed with what, but the general idea should be there in your mind. Okay, and this, as I said, this increasing content of silica increases the cementation material which is there. So this is used for marine structures or construction which are near seashores or dam constructions where the constant water is going to be affecting the concrete members. It is used in pre-stressed and post-tension concrete members, manufacture for precast sewage pipes, sewage cement pipes, and it gives a better surface finish. It is used in decorative and art structures. Again, this last function is uh, not the important one, but still, due to its surface finish, it is used for those components as well. Then comes the rapid hardening cement. Now, OPC with higher content of tricalcium silicate is what this is. It gains strength more quickly than regular cement. Okay, its initial setting time is 30 minutes and final setting time is 600 minutes. Same as the regular cement, conventional cement, but it is used where rapid construction is needed, like the construction of pavement or etc., where we don't have much time for it to be what we say cure to 100%. So that's why this is used where it gains its strength very quickly with the setting time. Yeah. Then another cement is quick setting time. Now you have to understand both the difference between these two cement. which will form concrete. Okay, rapid hardening means it gains strength quickly, and quick setting time means it sets quickly. The to achieve the required strength may take usual time, but it sets quickly. Okay, so curing period may change. So here it is the cement which sets in very short time. Initial setting time is 5 minutes and final setting time is 30 minutes. Okay, the aluminum sulfate increases the hydration rate of silicate in this. So aluminum sulfate is the component which sets the cement quickly in this type of cement. It is used for underwater construction where you want to immediately let the concrete set. Also, it is used in rainy or cold weather conditions. So the cement or concrete which you have poured, it doesn't uh, get mixed with the additional water which is nearby, and it is used for anchoring or rock bolt in mining and tunneling. Okay, so there we immediately anchoring and rock bolt mining generally is done for the functions which are done for mining or tunneling. We immediately want it to be set as soon as we excavate or mine something to hold the anchors. Yeah. Then comes low heat cement. Okay, chemical composition for this of OPC is modified to reduce the heat of hydration. Okay, so we all know that when the chemical reaction happens, hydration process happens, it creates heat, a particular amount of heat. But if we want to reduce that heat, then we use this cement again used for this use of the construction of dams, large footing or large raft slab, because the components of these kind of projects are such that the amount of heat which is going to get produced by such large mass of concrete is going to be pretty high. So there we use this kind of cement. Then it can be used for construction of chemical plants. So where we don't want it to get reacted, or we don't, even the smallest temperature difference might uh, affect the function of a building. Then there we can use this kind of a cement. Then in hot weather conditions, of course, to reduce the, anyways, the heat is going to be higher. So to reduce that, we use it in hot weather conditions. Then comes sulfate resisting cement. Uh, Sulfate resisting cement is used to resist sulfate attacks in concrete. We must have seen this in uh, you must have seen the rocks in dunes. They are getting weathered due to the wind. The same way, concrete columns or concrete components also gets weathered due to sulfates, may it be in water or may it be in wind, or so there we want it where the amount of sulfate is higher. We want this kind of cement which resists these attacks. So due to the lower percentage of tricalcium aluminate, the production of calcium sulfide aluminates gets reduced, and which doesn't react with sulfate. In turn, it helps us in these conditions. So construction in contact with soil or groundwater having more than 0.2 or 0.3 sulfate salts respectively, we use this cement. Okay. So whenever we are creating foundation or something, we do soil testing. We test its strength, soil bearing capacity, components which are present in soil, and etc. So all that we analyze, and then we see what kind of minerals are present in the in that soil or strata, and accordingly we protect the foundation. May it be due to groundwater or in soil itself. Then surface is subjected to alternate wetting and drying, such as bridge piers, concrete surface in building near sea coasts, where we generally get the sea breeze, or where the columns or the concrete elements are getting constantly in touch with the water with full of minerals. There again we use this. Then effluent treatment plants, chimneys, or chemical industries where we know that the chemicals are going to be present or in contact with the structural elements, there again we try to use this surface resisting cement. Cooling towers, coastal protective work such as sea walls, breakwaters, tetrapods, all these things requires protection from sulfate. So there we use these kind of cement. Again, the images I don't have it for all, just the packaging, because after all it's a cement, so it looks same visually, so it doesn't make that much difference. So just for the images are just for the reference. Then high alumina cement. Okay, in this cement, it is obtained from aluminum ore, an ordinary lime with clinker during the manufacture of regular cement. Again, it resists chemical attacks. Now this again, a high alumina cement, again it gives protection to some other chemicals. Even I don't know exactly, but still, again, different types of minerals present in the soil or the weather requires different kinds of treatments. So that's why this is again uh, one of the solution for it. So it is used where structures are subjected to high temperature like workshops or foundries. Okay, if the temperature gets high, then the chemicals present, the minerals or chemicals present in the cement and the atmosphere may uh, react, and to resist that we use this kind of cement. It is used where the concrete is subjected to frost and acidic action. Yeah, same. Okay. Then comes white cement. Okay, it is again, the white cement is quite similar to regular cement except for the color which it has. Amounts of iron oxide and manganese oxide are low in white cement, which keeps the cement white itself. It's expensive than regular cement, so not economical for ordinary works. Again, due to the reduction of manganese oxide and oxide, even the strength of it is also not as good as regular cement. So this is then generally used for decorative works or grouting, maybe in swimming pool, roof tiles, patching material and terrazzo surfaces. So what happens is that we can, you know, in white cement we can add color pigments so that we can match it to the tile grouts or wherever it is visible, the cement joints, wherever the joints or anything is visible, we try to match it with proper color pigment and use it. So that's where the decorative works. Color cement, yeah, okay. To make 5 to 10% of suitable pigments are grinded with OPC. Okay, it's again this generally we don't use because generally concrete, whenever we are generally we use cement or concrete for structural members, and wherever we want to use it for aesthetic purposes, then we opt for some other material rather than going with the cement or concrete. But still it is there, so I'm letting you know that it can also be done. Color cement can also be used. Types of pigments are selected according to the desired color. Again, it is used for decorative works, and again the pigments which are used, again there are different chemicals which gives a particular color to the cement. So that's why this is used, but usually we use white cement because it is not as expensive as color cement, and colors which we can add, it's up to us by increasing and adding the pigments, and that's why we use that. Then air entraining cement. Okay, so it creates tiny air bubbles in concrete. Okay, the air voids in concrete provides space for water to expand without cracking in cold conditions. Generally, due to the weathering effect, due to the difference in temperature, sometimes where we get extreme heat and extreme cold, uh, we tend to see cracks which are created due to the this temperature in the concrete. So there we use this. cement. It has, of course, less strength than OPC concrete due to the voids, but it is used where the temperature is very low. It also resists sulfate attacks, and it is used to overcome freeze-thaw effect. So expansion, and when even the water content, if it is there inside, uh, uh, it gets space to, whenever in cold conditions, when the temperatures goes below zero or something, then there it turns into ice. The water turns into ice and it expands. So that space has to be there in concrete, otherwise it might get we might see cracks in it. So that's why this air entering and training cement is used. Then comes expansive cement. Okay, it it is in the hydration process. The expansion of cement increases its volume, and it can be overcome. It can be possible to overcome shrinkage loss by using expansive cement. So it is used in the construction of pre-stressed concrete components. It is also used for sealing joints and grouting anchor bolts, where we, you know, after whenever you must have seen how we create anchor bolts or sealing joints. We need the voids to be completely filled with concrete. So after getting in, it expands and covers up the whole space and doesn't keep space for the voids. So that's why we sometimes use this kind of cement. Okay, these were just the basic cements which are used generally in construction. So I introduce them to you all. Now the second component comes aggregates. Now it is mixed with cement to form concrete. It gives, again, why we use aggregates. So it gives volume and stability. We can't just use concrete throughout. Okay. First of all, the concrete is what we say. Its weight is more than the aggregate. So that's why aggregate makes the concrete lightweight. Aggregates generally which we use are of local material. Generally in Mumbai we see basalt aggregates. So they are again resistant to wear and erosion because they are weathered. They doesn't react as much to chemicals as the concrete itself. It reduces shrinkage. You know, the concrete shrinks after it sets or hydration process is done. So that also is reduced by using these aggregates. Yeah. And it shouldn't be soft, weak, or reactive, of course. So that kind of stone you have to choose, which won't react to other chemicals. Okay, then now there are two types. One is fine aggregate, one is coarse aggregate. So the fine aggregates, to give you the technical information, the particle that pass through 4.75 mm sieve and retain on 0.075 mm sieve, not smaller than 0.075 mm of, let's say, dia. Okay, uh, those can be considered for fine aggregates. The voids between the coarse aggregates are filled up by fine aggregates. Okay, it includes sand or crushed stone. Due to the not getting enough sand for the construction, now people are also using crushing the stones and using that as a fine aggregate. River sand or machine sand, crushed stone sand, crushed gravel sand are the major sources. It is used in mortar, PCC, plaster, concrete, filling of road pavement layers, etc. Again, river sand at some places it is limited to excavate those and use it for construction. So that's why we use crushed stones and crushed gravel sands, etc. Then coarse aggregate. Coarse aggregate, it acts as an inert filler material for concrete, as we knew. So as you can see the gradation on the right hand side, the coarse aggregate eventually becoming fine aggregate, and this coarse aggregate, again, it retains on, it shouldn't be lesser than 5 mm. It shouldn't pass through 5 mm sieve. Okay, that's what we use for coarse aggregate. It includes gravel, fragments of broken stones, slag, crushed gravel or stone, then maybe natural disintegrated of rock are also major source for it. Mainly used in concrete, railway track blast, etc. Okay. Now the grading. Grading of aggregates is it is generally determined the average grain size and aggregates before they are used in construction. This is applied to both coarse and fine aggregates. Now you can't just use small only one type. Let's say this, if this is these are the this is the fine aggregate, then you can't just use this. There has to be proper gradation. There has to be proper proportionate divisions of all types of sizes to fill the voids properly. Okay. The aggregate sample is sieved through a set of sieves and weights retained on each sieve in percentage, and terms are summed up. So percentage. I guess we have a slide further. So I'll explain you this point there. Aggregates are generally washed and graded at plant or excavation sites. Okay, again, from where we get aggregates, we don't know. So after that, we wash it, we remove the minerals or whatever deposits it might have on it, and then we uh, take it to the plant or excavation site after it comes from excavation site. So factor to check and observe type of material, which stone or which particular material it is. Then the size, we grade it. If they are coming from the if they are crushed through the stones, then they might be of a proper size. But if we are getting it from natural sites, then we might have to grade it. We have to check the size which is available. Then quality of aggregates. Okay, if it is clean, not clean, shapes, everything we have to see. Mineral deposits, if there are any over it. Again, the MEHA, moisture content or bulking. Moisture content is very important thing to check, because after concretizing is done, then moisture content might affect the quality of structure. So that has to be checked before using it for construction. Okay. Now types of grading. Okay. So well graded, again, what will be called as well graded aggregates. Okay. So the proportions are tricky. It reduces cement volume, preserves strength and workability, has maximum size range of aggregate equally distributed. As you can see in this image, since there are all sizes of aggregates present, all the voids are getting covered properly in the concrete. Okay. Poorly graded aggregate sizes which are almost same and requires more cement. And it is uneconomical. Since it requires more cement, it of course it is going to be uneconomical. So as you can see, if we have, let's say, only large or a particular size of aggregates, then the voids are going to get filled with either cement or a cement paste, or maybe water, which cement might the concrete might produce, or maybe just the air voids. So again, reducing the strength and use of more what we say cement will be uneconomical. Then gap graded. Okay, so intermediate size fractions of aggregate are absent. So only, let's say, falls in between well and poor in terms of workability and economy. So it may be such that the only large and the gap or the gap between the smallest aggregate and the largest aggregate might be, the percentage of it might be huge, so which shouldn't be the condition. Otherwise, as you can see, this kind of a composition we might get after we construct. Okay. Now grades of concrete. I'm sure you must have been learning this since first year, what kind of grades there are. uh, M10, M15, M20, M25, etc. Ordinary cement till M30, 35 we generally use. So initial M10, M15 we use it for leveling works, pathways, non-structural work, PCC wherever we use. Then M15 and M20 we use it for construction in RCC. Footing bedwork piece. M15 is used for bedwork in footing. M20, 25 we use it for regular construction, beams, columns, slabs, etc. Then M30, 35 is generally used for large scale building projects. Then standard concrete. Yeah, okay. After M40, generally we call it as design mix, and we don't generally define it with the proper cement sand aggregate ratio, because this strength can be. I mean, it is not just that we can achieve this strength only by controlling cement sand and aggregate. Okay, we also use admixtures. We control the what we say curing conditions, mixing conditions, we control them. Accordingly, we can achieve, if it is generally, when you will practice on site, you will see that even when they are saying it is getting M20, we are going to use M20 ratio. On site after construction, we might not be getting that much size, because here, at least I have seen many of the times people don't, I mean, the worker on site, they don't follow proper proportions of water or aggregates or proper mixing techniques, or location where they are mixing. There might be other kachra and all getting mixed with it. So again, eventually it reduces some strength. So we might not be achieving the exact grade of concrete which we want. So generally, that's why we send concrete cubes for testing from the same mixture which is getting used for the construction. So above M40, these kind of design mixes are generally prepared carefully, and generally they are created in ready mix concrete plants, because requirements for such kind of what we say concrete is also in huge quantities. So we created at various cement mixture plants where it is properly, carefully mixed, proportionately mixed and created, and then that we use it for the projects like bridges, highways, flyovers, etc. And now actually even we don't even get the cement mixture on site. We generally get pre-stressed or pre-stressed components on site itself for bridge or highways or those kind of large projects. So yeah, this is what it is. A high strength concrete. It can be defined as concrete with a specific characteristic of cube strength, which lies between 16 to 100 Newton per mm square. So basically M60 to M100. Okay, those can be called as high strength concrete. So to achieve this, we generally also control the water cement ratio, which should be in the range of 0.3 to 0.34 or even lower. So since the water is reduced, the strength of concrete can be achieved faster. But again, the environment where we are going to use it, that also should be considered, how it is going to affect it. Okay. Then sometimes super plasticizers or high range water reducers should be used to achieve maximum water reductions. Okay. Again, these are additives. These are added in very small quantities, those chemicals, but still it changes the properties of concrete in uh, in huge way. Okay. The size of structural members like beams and columns are also reduced, since smaller sections are enough to carry high loads. Okay. It is typically used in high-rise construction, which are over 30-40 story structures. It has been used in components such as shear walls and foundations. Okay. It is occasionally used in bridge applications as well. Yeah, to achieve the larger spans. Again, it is not just the high strength concrete, but again the placement of it with the reinforcement and post tensioning techniques, newer techniques, how we use it, all together makes a huge structure. So it's not just the high strength concrete can be, I mean, this is just about the concrete and not the whole element which we are talking about. Okay. Okay, so yeah, it is used in highway bridges. High strength concrete permits reinforced or pre-stressed concrete girders to span greater lengths. Yeah. The term high performance concrete and high strength concrete are different in type. So don't get yourself confused between these two. The difference is that high strength concrete is based on its compressive strength at a given age. Okay. Whereas high performance concrete is defined based on performance criteria, namely high durability, high strength, high workability, etc. Okay. High strength just gives you the strength which it requires or the strength which we want to achieve, but high performance includes all the criteria, including high strength, high durability, and high workability. Okay. Uh, do you all have any doubts on anything till now? If not, then we can go ahead. Now the durability of concrete, what it is. So the ability of concrete to resist weathering action, chemical attacks, and abrasion while maintaining its desired engineered properties is can be defined as durability of concrete. Uh, it generally, so it refers to the duration or lifespan of a trouble-free performance without maintenance, without changing, without repair work, how much it can go ahead. May it be physical, may it be chemical, whatever it may be. Different concrete requires different degrees of durability depending on the exposure or environment or properties desired or where it is going to get the function, may it be in industrial building or chemical building or dams or whatever. Accordingly, we have to tweak the criteria for durability. Okay. So the factor which are affecting durability, the first one can be cement content. So the cement content mix must be designed to ensure cohesive and prevent segregation and bleeding. On the right hand side image, if you can see the water which is above the slab, it is due to the bleeding. So it lets the water release from itself, and the composition below uh, doesn't get proper hydration, doesn't go through proper hydration process. So that can affect durability. If cement is reduced, then at fixed water cement ratio, the workability will be reduced, leading to inadequate compaction. Yeah, the amount of cement in proportion. However, if water is added to improve workability, water cement ratio increases and results in highly permeable material. Yeah, again, same thing. If it gets increased or reduced, it is going to affect the durability. It is going to affect the lifespan of the building. Compaction. So compaction, again, the concrete as a whole contains voids and can be caused by inadequate compaction. So you know that we use vibrators, machine vibrators or needle vibrators to get the uh, uh, air or the voids which are there, get let it out. If we don't do that, if it is not done properly, you can see in the right hand image what happens after and it is again after we remove the foamwork, then we can see this. So till then we have no idea, and if you want to repair this, uh, again it is going to increase your time period, increase your budget, and still it won't achieve the strength which is required. So yeah, generally it is governed by the compaction equipment type of formwork and density of steel work. Again, if your column is very small or beams or some component is very small and it has thick reinforcement in it, the aggregates won't be able to reach to the proper position or everywhere equally. So that might affect it. So that you have to, observe when we are on site. So this. Then comes curing. Okay. So it is again very important to permit proper strength, proper conditions for curing the concrete is also important that we provide. Uh, so it is very important to permit proper strength development which aids more moisture retention and to ensure hydration process occurs completely. If it doesn't, then again due to the heat which is going to get released, and if it is not absorbed or it is not released properly, then the cracks may appear on the top surface. Again, these are not the these are very minute cracks which run across everywhere. In Mumbai, generally we see, because what the builder does is he plasters, he creates structure, and he sells it off in 2-3 months, and people start living there. They paint it, they cover it up, and after 6 or 7 months, it shows these kind of cracks on your painted walls. So it has to be observed that so that's why first of all the curing should be happen properly, and to not to get these kind of cracks over your paint surface or punning surface, you have to let it cure for at least 8 to 9 months before you do any other application over it. Okay, because these kind of cracks are bound to develop. So if you have already treated this surface, then these cracks are going to reflect on the treated surface as well, on your finishes as well. So generally it should let the we should let the concrete cure properly and give its required time. Cover. Okay, the thickness of cover, concrete cover must follow the limits set in codes. Permeability. It is considered the most important factor for durability. It can be noticed that higher permeability is usually caused by higher porosity. Okay, how much water or precipitation it may retain. With, if it is holding up that water or the precipitation, it may lead to corrosion of steel, expansion, cracking of concrete, which might be vulnerable to frost action. And this kind of whole concrete cover patch, due to the expansion in steel bars or something, the whole concrete patch may uh, drop from the slab or from the columns. This also is very common in buildings, which concrete buildings which are in Mumbai and not constructed, not taken care of while construction. It is very common in at 15 to 20-year-old buildings, which shouldn't happen generally if the method is properly followed. So therefore, a proper curing, sufficient cement, proper compaction, and suitable concrete cover could provide a low permeability concrete. Okay. Then durability which we want to resist are, there are many types, but majorly I'm going to show you these two, which is physical durability and chemical durability. Okay, so the physical durability we want against freezing and thawing action. Okay, which means when the in cold weather, when it constantly freezes, when you have snow and water, that kind of a condition, there generally we have to observe and use the concrete properly in that condition. Percolation or permeability of water, how much water it is going to get retained, and so again that will affect the concrete and the reinforcement which is present inside. Then temperature stresses, that is high heat of hydration. Okay, if the heat is if we don't cure it properly, or the heat of, as I said, if there are large mass of the concrete, and then it will requires it will release a huge amount of heat which has to be treated properly, otherwise it will affect your structure itself. Okay, then abrasions means in generally in industrial buildings, or where the or maybe where the concrete is going to uh, get constant vibrations maybe, or frictions due to machines or vehicle or any equipment. There we have to again treat it properly, otherwise it will require annual maintenance, which is a headache. And again that's why we have to see where the concrete is going to be placed, and accordingly we have to take care of it properly. Then another type is chemical durability. So chemical durability is against the following actions. As I said, sulfate attacks, when we saw the different types of cement, sulfate attacks. So that kind of constant chemical exposure may weather the concrete element in such, I hope you can see the image, in such a way. So that again, it reduces the cover, and so the proper amount of cover and proper type of cement has to be used to resist this. Then alkali aggregate reaction, the first image which you see, this the cracks which are developed due to high alkali aggregates. So aggregates were not properly treated or not properly checked before using it, then these kind of things may happen, may the cracks may develop. Then corrosion in reinforcement due to the mineral present in water or maybe atmosphere again, so that is also going to happen, so that has to be checked before we go ahead with it. Uh, then comes the additives which we add. So additives are added in to a water cement mixture to increase the life of concrete, or maybe control the setting time, or maybe a hardening, and fix the general concrete behavior. So they can be powdered or maybe in liquid form. Okay, it can be used for increase the concrete strength maybe, or whatever thing property we desire, we can achieve via these additives. So some are such that we mix it while we mix the water cement in batching plants or RCC or sorry concrete plants, and some can be used, for example the chemical additives. It reduces the construction cost. So by chemical additives we might able to by using super plasticizers and all, we might able to get the strength which we require by I mean increase the strength of the existing mixture, usual conventional mixture, so in turn reducing the element sizes. Okay, then overcome emergencies at concrete operations. So generally when we are on site and we might have to sometimes what happens, the RMC truck gets stuck in ready mix concrete truck gets stuck in traffic, or it reaches early or it reaches late, or anything can happen, or while so during that time we have to control the hard what we say setting time of concrete. We might have to increase or reduce whatever as per the condition, we might have to change it. So that's why also we use chemical additives. Guarantee quality during mixing all through to curing process. So again, to control properties during mixing, which can lead to proper curing process. Modify the features of hardened concrete. So sometimes if the concrete is hardened before pouring itself, so we can change it by adding these chemical additives. Then there are mineral additives, which increases the concrete strength, economize on the mixture by again just instead of chemical we use minerals, which reduces the permeability levels, affects the nature of concrete through the use of hydraulic activities. So same that we acha, now the types of additives, why we use these additives in what to change what. So some are, as you can see on the right hand side, the elements which are like fly ash and rice husk ash and everything. So these are mineral additives, and blast furnace slag or silica fumes, these are chemical additives. So now the water reducing additive, it is usually to reduce the required water content for a concrete mixture, and it can reduce that amount by at least 10%. Okay, 10% water you will require less while construction. So again, where you it can make a lot of difference where you don't get proper amount of water, then these kind of water reducing additives can be used. Then set retarding, it slows the setting time of concrete and are used to counteract the accelerating effect of hot weather on concrete setting time. Okay, same thing as I said, if the concrete is already, the water and cement is already mixed, aggregates are already mixed, and but still the pouring time is yet to come and we still have time to, so to postpone the hardening, we use this. Then accelerating, so these are used to increase the rate of concrete strength development or to reduce concrete setting time. Okay, so accelerating we may use it to gain strength quickly. For example, as we saw, let's say concrete paved roads or general constructions in public spaces which requires immediate curing and immediate we want to use it quickly. So there we use these kind of accelerating additives. Then air entrainment. We saw a type of cement which did this, but again that kind of cement might be expensive if we are going to use it for a larger area. So there are additives which can convert which will induce microscopic air bubbles to stabilize the concrete, and resultant effect is again preventing the concrete from cracking in cold environment. So we may add additives or we may use the cement which it is how it is. Okay. And then shrinkage reducing. So used in floor slabs, bridge decks, and building where curling and cracks needs to be significantly reduced. For such a large structural elements, if shrinkage happens above a tolerance limit, then it might be eventually affecting your whole structure. So again, to reduce that, you can add this kind of additives. Then super plasticizers. So they are used to produce flowing concrete with high slump in heavily reinforced structures and in placement where adequate consolidation by vibration cannot be readily achieved. Okay. Uh, Again, superplasticizers are used to increase the plasticity of the concrete, which so that it can easily flow through the complex reinforcement or something where you won't be able to check or perform the compact consolidation activities. It is used, and then comes the corrosion inhibiting additive. It slows the corrosion of reinforcement steel in concrete. So it saves the reinforcement which is there inside the structure. That's why we use this. So yeah, this was it for today. There is still a small thing left which we might take it later, because again it will take 40-50 minutes more, and again we have ABC construction lectures. Do you guys have any doubts or any questions you can ask? This is again, see, we don't have to understand exactly what chemical components exactly are used and how it is going to react with what chemical and all that. We just have to see what kind of possibilities there are, considering the may it be location, may it be weather, may it be condition of the structure, what should be used or what should be preferred. Then we have to check whether it is economically viable or not. Because these kind of additives, so it's fine, but still the different kind of what we say, uh, cement may change the overall budget or overall maybe time. So which one is beneficial for you or while we practice? So we have to at least know that all these things are available and it can be used. So at least when we talk with someone, with maybe engineer or someone, we can uh, check with these kind of possibility and what should be done. And these additives and all, that's all regular stuff. It has to be all this has to be known to every one of us when it is happening on site, because what they are adding or how it is going to get transported or how it is going to get cured or what kind of aggregates are getting used, visually we should be able to see is it good, is it bad, should it be used or not. Otherwise generally cheap quality or low quality aggregates or low quality material contractor might use, and it might uh, they might get through it and construct the structure which is eventually, see what happens is when the structure goes bad or it requires maintenance and everything, everyone first looks at architect, that what kind of design or structure he has provided. So contractor doesn't come into picture till later stage. So we have to take care of our structure, how it is going to get built. So that's why this is important. Again, there are many advancements which are done with the concrete, uh, like 3D printing and designing and different material by different composite material which are used with cement. So they are also there in market. Some people experiment, some people and again, it is not like this particular cement, if I'm using the whole structure, is going to be in this. We have to see where what is required, and accordingly we have to use it. Okay. So yeah, this is it for today. Do you guys have any questions or anything to ask? If not, then we can meet at 11:30 for construction lecture. Okay. So should we end the meeting? Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.